14 federal prosecutors have resigned from one office in the past 2 months. The DOJ is so desperate they're flying in military lawyers to fill the gaps, and the Attorney General is in full panic mode. Something is breaking inside the Justice Department right now. It's not bureaucratic turnover, it's institutional collapse. The Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office now has fewer than 20 attorneys. They're drowning in 490 detention challenges filed in 2 months, more than the previous 8 years combined. And experienced lawyers are walking out rather than execute orders they consider unethical. This is what happens when law enforcement becomes weaponized. The people who run the system start refusing to participate. Stay with me, because what triggered this exodus connects directly to two names: Renee Good and Alex Prey, both American citizens, both killed by federal agents in Minneapolis, both handled in ways that made career prosecutors decide they couldn't stay. Let me show you the hypocrisy driving the backlash. I don't understand why and where my colleagues are going on everything else. And now they want to be the protectors of girls and women. I didn't hear them screaming this when Renee Good was killed in the middle of the street in Minneapolis. I didn't hear any protection for Renee Good, a U.S. citizen that was killed by the same people that the vast majority of you just voted to give more money to. I didn't hear the same thing. In fact, it was a lot of crickets, specifically including the women, as we were just lectured about what we need to do as women when it came down to the Epstein files. I heard crickets. In fact, we could not get any signatures onto that discharge petition, to the extent that we shut down the entire House, and there was no business that was conducted in this entire country on behalf of our constituents. But let me be clear, the Republicans are going to protect girls and women, because that's what this is all about. It's not about the report, because the amendment says it's about a report. Like, miss me on being protectors. Just say that this is what you believe, this is what you're doing. But don't come at us and tell us as women what we should be okay with, what we shouldn't be okay with. Because it's just kind of like the same thing where I should be telling a lot of women on the other side of the aisle, I don't know how it is that you are not protecting women as they need protections over their own bodies to make their own decisions. The gentle lady yield for a question. I will yield for a question. That hypocrisy isn't just rhetorical, it has operational consequences. When an administration applies standards selectively, when laws are enforced based on political alignment rather than consistent principle, the people tasked with enforcement notice. Career attorneys at the Justice Department didn't sign up to be instruments of selective prosecution. Many of them have served across multiple administrations, Republican and Democrat. They have professional standards, they have ethical obligations, and when those standards conflict with political directives, they face a choice. In Minnesota, many are choosing to leave. Now let me show you how Pam Bondi is responding to criticism, because her defense reveals the contradictions at the heart of the administration's approach. They met in a parking lot about 2 miles away. While people were filing into this church service, they were caravanning to this church to perform an attack-style infiltration of a church service on a Sunday morning. They came in through all doors. All the people we've charged did this. All of them. That's him in the church confronting the pastor. The pastor will say he was scared. His parishioners were scared. We just know there was a church shooting recently in Minneapolis. They did not know. You can't do this, Sean, in this country. Yes, it's a violation of the law to do what they did, and we will hold you accountable. Here's what makes that response significant. The statute Bondi is citing, the FACE Act, is the same law that Donald Trump has already pardoned 23 people for violating. Think about that contradiction. The Attorney General is threatening prosecution under a law that the president has signaled through pardons that he doesn't believe should be enforced. This is the incoherence that career prosecutors are watching. Laws aren't being applied consistently. They're being applied tactically against political opponents while allies receive pardons for the same conduct. That's not law enforcement, that's weaponization. And people who dedicated their careers to the justice system are refusing to participate. Now, let me break down the specific damage in Minnesota, because the numbers are staggering. The U.S. Attorney's Office now has fewer than 20 attorneys to handle all federal cases in the state. Among the departures is Anna Voss, the civil division chief who was responsible for handling detention challenges. This matters because of the caseload she was managing. From December to January 26th alone, 490 immigrants filed challenges to their detention. For comparison, the previous 8 years combined saw only 375 similar cases. Voss wrote in a legal brief that she couldn't effectively triage and review every judicial order. She was drowning in cases with inadequate resources, and then she left. The DOJ's response has been to scramble. They've brought in 10 attorneys from other states, 5 from Washington, D.C., 5 from the Judge Advocate General Corps, the military's legal branch. But even with those reinforcements, the office remains woefully understaffed. And bringing in outside attorneys who don't know local courts, local procedures, or local cases creates its own problems. Doug Kelly, who served as assistant U.S. attorney in Minnesota in the 1980s, summarized the situation. He said, "They're in disarray." He said, "It's demoralizing for the people who remain. This is what institutional collapse looks like. Not dramatic explosions, but steady erosion. Experienced people leaving, institutional knowledge walking out the door, replacements who lack context trying to manage overwhelming caseloads, and the consequences extend beyond Minnesota." When a U.S. attorney's office can't function effectively, cases don't get prosecuted. Evidence degrades. Witnesses become unavailable. Statute of limitations expire. Justice delayed becomes justice denied. The administration claims to be tough on crime, but their conduct is systematically degrading the capacity to actually prosecute crimes. Now, let me show you the broader pattern. Because Minnesota isn't isolated, it connects to problems across the administration's law enforcement apparatus. So the Secretary of Homeland Security, Christine Noem, posted this on social media late last year, swears included. She posted, quote, "I am recommending a full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. We don't want them, not one." This was less than a month after the Trump administration had announced they were revoking the legal status of immigrants from Haiti to this country. That's more than 300,000 people from Haiti who live and work in this country legally, here under a legal designation called temporary protected status. The Trump administration announced they were going to revoke that legal status, and it was going to be effective at midnight Tuesday this week. And just think about the practical impact of that. This is a huge number of people. We're talking about more than 300,000 people who are here in this country legally. But at the stroke of midnight, they were suddenly and immediately going to become illegal. They were going to become, therefore, in the eyes of the Trump administration, in the eyes of ICE, they were going to become immediately eligible for arrest and imprisonment and deportation by ICE. The sudden ending of that temporary protected status for more than 300,000 people was challenged in the courts, and in a buzzer beater, a judge in the case just headed it off. Just one day before the deadline, the judge temporarily blocked the Trump administration from doing what they wanted to do. People from Haiti who are here under TPS will be able to continue to live and work in this country while the case is being fully litigated. But I want you to know the reason I think this is worth knowing about is because of the language of the ruling. In the ruling on this case, the judge just absolutely excoriates the Trump administration. This is from the ruling. Quote, "President Trump has referred to Haiti as a bleep-hole country, suggested Haitians probably have AIDS, and complained that Haitian immigration is, quote, like a death wish for our country. Quote, he has also promoted the false conspiracy theory that Haitian immigrants were eating the pets of the people of Springfield, Ohio. He stated, quote, why is it we only take people from BL countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few from Denmark. It is not a coincidence. The judge says that Haiti's population is 95% black, while Norway's is over 90% white. The judge continues. Secretary Noem complains of strains unlawful immigrants place on our immigration enforcement system. Her answer turned 352,959 lawful immigrants into unlawful immigrants overnight. She complains of strains to our economy. Her answer, turn employed lawful immigrants who contribute billions in taxes into the legally unemployable. She complains of strains to our healthcare system. Secretary Noem's answer, turn the insured into the uninsured. This approach is many things. In the public interest is not one of them. The judge continues, plaintiffs charge that Secretary Noem preordained her termination decision and did so because of hostility to non-white immigrants. The judge says, quote, this seems substantially likely. The judge actually includes a screenshot of Christine Noem's tweet where she calls immigrants leeches and killers. And then the judge ends her ruling with this quote. There's an old adage among lawyers. If you have the facts on your side, pound the facts. If you have the law on your side, pound the law. If you have neither, pound the table. Secretary Noem, the record to date shows, does not have the facts on her side, or at least has ignored them. The pattern is consistent across agencies. Homeland Security under Christine Noem, Justice Department under Pam Bondi. The same combination of incompetence and corruption producing the same institutional degradation. This raises a question that deserves serious consideration. Is this incompetence or is it intentional? There's a political theory that suggests some actors benefit from government dysfunction. If citizens don't trust institutions, they're more willing to accept authoritarian alternatives. If agencies can't function, it justifies claims that government doesn't work. But there's a limit to that strategy. At some point, dysfunction interferes with the administration's own goals. They can't prosecute their preferred targets if the prosecution apparatus is collapsing. They can't enforce their preferred policies if the enforcement agencies are hemorrhaging staff. That's the tension Bondi and Noom are navigating. They need enough dysfunction to justify their narrative, but not so much that it prevents them from exercising power. In Minnesota, they may have crossed that line. The office is so depleted that basic functions are compromised, and the proximate cause is their own handling of controversial cases. Now, let me address what this means for accountability, because the resignations have a secondary effect. When career prosecutors leave, institutional memory leaves with them. Cases that were being built get abandoned or transferred. Investigations that were progressing lose momentum. The people who understood the evidence, the witnesses, the legal strategies, they're gone. This affects not just current cases, but future accountability. If this administration faces legal scrutiny after leaving office, the degraded institutions they leave behind will be less capable of conducting that scrutiny. Some might argue this is a feature, not a bug. Weaken the institutions now so they can't hold you accountable later. Whether that's the intention or simply the effect, the result is the same. Diminished capacity for the justice system to function as designed. Here's what to watch in the coming weeks. Watch resignation patterns at other U.S. attorneys' offices. Minnesota may be the most acute case, but similar dynamics exist elsewhere. If we see waves of departures in other jurisdictions, it signals a broader institutional crisis. Watch the administration's response. Do they acknowledge the problem and attempt to address it, or do they attack the departing attorneys as disloyal? The response will reveal whether they view this as a management challenge or a political opportunity. Watch case outcomes in Minnesota. With a depleted office handling an overwhelming caseload, something has to give. Either cases get dismissed, or corners get cut, or defendants' rights get violated in ways that produce appeals. The downstream effects will become visible. Watch Bondi standing with Trump. She's in competition with No for who's generating more negative headlines. Trump's patience with subordinates who create problems is limited. If the Minnesota situation continues deteriorating, Bondi becomes a liability. The broader story here isn't about one office in one state. It's about what happens when law enforcement becomes politicized beyond what career professionals will tolerate. The justice system depends on people who believe in consistent application of law regardless of political considerations. When those people conclude that their work is being corrupted, they leave. And when enough of them leave, the system stops functioning. That's happening now in real time, with consequences that will extend far beyond this administration. The attorneys resigning in Minnesota aren't making political statements. They're making professional judgments. They're concluding that they cannot do their jobs ethically under current conditions. That should concern everyone, regardless of political affiliation. A functioning justice system protects every American. When it breaks down, everyone pays the price. Pam Bondi is panicking because she knows this moment threatens her position. But the real danger isn't her career. It's the institutions meant to protect all of us. Watch the resignations. Watch how the cases unfold. Watch the capacity of the system itself. What's happening in Minnesota isn't an isolated incident. It's a warning. And how we respond will determine what kind of justice system we're left with when this is over. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date on every development. We're following an institutional crisis that much of the mainstream media is ignoring. Like this video if you want more coverage. Leave a comment with your thoughts on the unraveling at the DOJ. Share this with anyone who needs to understand what's really happening. Keep pushing, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one. Now let me show you the hypocrisy fueling the backlash. Video 1, Jasmine Crockett calling out MAGA hypocrisy.